AI will drive 83 million structured job cuts in the next 5 years. Yep, that's right. In the next 5 years, 83 million structured jobs. What does that mean? And it's almost impossible to comprehend that number. This comes from the World Economic Forum, these data. They also tell us that from 2022, we right now have tasks that are 34% done by humans versus machines. By 2027, it will be 43% done by machines versus humans. So at a very rapid rate, we're beginning to see things changing and evolving. If we think that we've gone through an incredible time in terms of shifts in jobs, people being laid off, jobs disappearing, well, unfortunately, if the World Economic Forum is correct, the pace at which that's going to happen is only going to accelerate. So here are the fastest growing jobs versus the fastest declining jobs. Don't you want to know? AI and machine learning, number 1 fastest growing job. Number 2 fastest growing job are sustainability specialists. Number 3, business intelligence analysts. Number 4, information security analysts, fintech engineers, data analysts and scientists. Number 6, robotics engineers. Number 7, electrotechnology engineers. 8, agricultural equipment operators. 9, digital transformation specialists. The fastest declining jobs, number 1, bank tellers and related clerks. Isn't that interesting? We've thought of that often as being a safe beginning position. 2, postal service and clerks. 3, cashiers and ticket clerks. 4, data entry clerks. 5, administrative and executive secretaries. 6, material recording and stock keeping clerks. 7, accounting, bookkeeping, and payroll clerks. That has also traditionally been a job that we have looked at as being safe. After all, every business needs a bookkeeper and an accountant. And how will that be shifting and changing? 8, legislators and officials. Now, I find that one fascinating because we have many discussions about, are our legislators effective? Well, we may not need them as much in the future, at least according to the predictions that are being set forth by the World Economic Forum. Number 9, job that will be declining in the future, statistical and finance insurance clerks. 10, door-to-door sales workers, news, street vendors, and related workers. The declining jobs are all those jobs that are high hands-on work that we've needed in terms of accomplishing a result. The jobs that are doing well are anything that's dealing with technology, artificial intelligence, engineering. So as you are choosing your career and learning a new skill, think about that. Am I moving into a declining area or a growth sector? If this is going to happen in 5 years or within that time frame, we are coming up into a period where the speed at which change is occurring is almost beyond human comprehension. In the middle of that, we are dealing with other issues. Silent quitting. Do I want to go to my workplace or don't I want to go to the workplace? We have that tension growing and continuing, don't we, with the hybrid workplace situation. Trust has eroded. We have only 23% of the population trusting their leaders. If we have AI and artificial intelligence replacing many of the jobs and skills, trust will be further eroded. What does that mean in terms of leaders? What kind of leader do we need that will manage a workforce where AI is a major piece of being able to accomplish a result in your job? We are going to see careers disappearing. We're going to have perhaps whole communities that could potentially be without work. What does that mean? If you don't have work, you can't feed your family. You can't send your child to school. We don't have money to raise for taxes. We have cities that will be in trouble. That is disconcerting. So the question comes, what do we do? Where do we focus? And how do we begin to address some of these issues? Well, I think number 1, we need to take a hard look at what are we afraid of? Take a look at what's happening. Are we able to input and create structure in what it is that we're developing? so we'll like the world that we're creating. We need to become more committed, not less committed. Right now, when we don't trust, we're not committed to that job. Silent quitting continues on, and silent quitting doesn't allow us to really address the issues that we're going to be dealing with. Self-preservation by itself also not be an answer, and that has often been the human go-to place when we feel stressed and fearful of our own safety and security. We're going to need a community, a corporate community, social community that's really willing to look at what kind of jobs do we want? Are we prepared? If not, how do we get people prepared? Because we have a responsibility to make sure that as we go through these shifts and changes, we also are preparing people for changes so they can actually do something, so that they can be productive, so they don't feel disenfranchised. We already have enough problems with inequality that we're talking about. How do we create equity? We don't need to create more of those problems. We need to begin to solve it. And so how do we harness all of these changes for our betterment and not to make things worse? Let me ask you, is your job in danger of being eliminated in the next 5 years? If so, what kind of skills are you going to begin to learn right now so you're ready and prepared for what's coming 5 years down the road? 5 years is not a long period of time. It's just high school. That's all. It's a short period of time. How are you going to prepare? Job cuts may intensify as IBM plans to use AI to replace 30% of back office jobs. We're seeing a lot of change coming right now, aren't we? We've seen layoffs at LinkedIn this past week, 700 positions cut. We've talked about this in the past. We've seen it with Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. The list goes on and on and on. Layoffs have become a reality of our work life. The question is, how are we going to respond to it? How is it going to impact you personally? And what are you doing in order to be prepared for these changes that not only are here, more are coming, more changes coming, and how are you prepared? Genghis Khan is known throughout the world as a barbarian that was an incredible warrior. But there are some important lessons that we can learn from him. And I have recently read this book, Genghis Khan and the Making of the Modern World. What's amazing to me as I read this book was the insights he had into leadership. I think there's a lot for us to learn from him. One of the things that brought him to the height of power was he realized that if you use usurious taxes, your power diminishes. And he watched a lot of leaders come and go. And he said, as merchants were going up and down what became the Silk Road and selling their wares, they would get taxed time and time again, and often it was quite usurious. And he said, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just charge people 10%. I want more merchants to come. I want them to see us as being merchant friendly. And so as that word got out, more merchants came. He made more money because his volume went up. So by using a reasonable tax percentage, his leadership base and his following base increased dramatically. One of the things that I also like about him is he was very clear about what he was doing. He didn't have a notion of needing to be everything. He didn't need to be an infantry, for example, as well as a cavalry. He knew he was a cavalry. That was his strength. That was his focus. He never took foot soldiers with him anyplace. Why? A cavalry can move fast. They can move in and out quickly. Cavalry slows you down. They gotta walk. Or they've got to have vehicles in which you can carry supplies and people. Genghis Khan never took supplies with him. His cavalry, the forces, each person had on their horse what they needed, the food they needed, whatever they needed for sleeping, for whatever tools they were going to need. Each person had whatever they needed, and he broke down the whole group into small segments. So a segment of 10, for example, was responsible for all the needs. So the tent, the place that you would sleep at night, the utensils, the different things that were needed were spread out amongst these 10 people. No one person carried it all for the whole group. Each carried their own weight. Why did he do that? Well, the incredible thing is his troops could move very fast. Everything was on cavalry, no on horseback, no carts. He pulled nothing behind them. Pulling carts behind you slows you down. You have to go through areas where there's a path. When you're only on horseback, you can go through forests, you can go through water, you can go through a lot of things that traditional armies are not able to do. So when Genghis Khan came to an area that he wanted to conquer, take over, let's say a village, he would stop outside that village, a distance from the village, and they would build what they needed in order to take over that village. Ramparts, bridges, anything that was needed, they created, they built it. So in his cavalry, he brought with him engineers, carpenters, skilled labor that could create the instruments that they would need in order to win the war. They didn't pull all this stuff behind them. They made it just before they needed and only what they needed for that. The other thing that he did was he always had a backup plan. They had extra horses. So when they went to push forward on a event, when they were going to take over a village, they would retreat, go get fresh horses, and attack again. Their counterparts didn't do that. Their horses were tired. Their warriors were tired. They didn't have the ability to refresh themselves and to go in with a new energy. Genghis Khan was prepared. He knew how he could outsmart, outmove his opponents, and he did it by being nimble, not being weighted down by stuff he didn't need, having experts with him that could do what needed to be done, and having extra horses so he could move in and out with fresh horses when he needed. Those are great lessons for us to learn, isn't it? Leadership requires us to be very nimble if we want to be successful and fair. His tax system with the merchants was a fair system. People appreciated it, and guess what? They followed him. They came to him. They looked to him as a person with whom they wanted to do business. If you want to be a better leader, pick up this book. It's on Amazon. It's a fast read. It's a great read. You'll be surprised at what you will learn. It's called Genghis Khan and the Making of the Modern World. It's written by Jack Weatherford. So pick it up, enjoy it.